Hey everyone, it's Bruce here to give you a little preview of what we're going to be covering in Module 3 this week. And that has to do with a basic registration and login system backed by MySQL with a sprinkling of some JavaScript. So let's take a look. I'm going to show you the site first, the quote-unquote site here. And on the right, I have the network tab open in my browser because I'm going to want to show you a lot of things that are happening here. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on register, and it's just calling, register.php and loading the style sheet. And I'll type in Cody at cody.com. And his password, I'll type in here. His name is Cody, and that's his last name. And when I click on register, right, it calls register.php and the style sheet. And that's it. And the registration PHP actually inserted into this table I have in a CodeMonkey database called user. And you can see down at the bottom here, here's the information about Cody along with his hashed password, right? It's not the password that I typed in, right? So let me show you now what's going on here. And I'm going to clear this right here, okay? So now I'm going to click on login. And you'll see here that login.php loaded, the style sheet, a script file, along with isloggedin.php, okay? Actually, yeah, don't worry about this guy right now. I'll show you that in a second. So let's log in as Cody, okay? Cody at cody.com. And I'll type in the password that Cody registered with, okay? And check this out. So here's some JavaScript. Check this out. Ready? Show password. Hide password. Show password. And see this right here? And notice there's no network traffic because that means it's all happening in the browser's DOM here. So what's going on here is that when this is clicked, there's an event listener bound to this that literally checks to see whether, actually what it does is it changes the type, the field type, the input field type from password to text. So this is password because we're seeing all the dots here. And when I do show password, we are dynamically changing the field type to text so we could see it. And I can just click on login. Okay, and now, right, check this out. Let me just save that. So what happened is home.php got loaded, style, the script file, and isloggedin.php. Now hear me out. This logout button, this logout link here, and you'll soon see a login. Those are all making, and you can see it right here. You see this right here where it says fetch? I am using JavaScript and what's called the Fetch API, which is also known as AJAX, Asynchronous JavaScript and XML, to make a call via JavaScript to PHP. And what happens is it returns to me whether the user is logged in or not right here when I clicked on that file. Okay, so you'll notice that once I click log out here, you're not going to see the home.php page reloaded. So watch this. Ready? Log out. See how it just called logout ajax.php? And if I click on that, it says yes, success. So what do you think it did when I clicked logout? All right, I heard you. I heard you say that it destroyed the sessions on the PHP server for that user. And yes, that's what it did. So I'm using, HTML, PHP, and JavaScript to control the login, whether the user is logged in or logged out. Okay, so that's pretty nifty stuff because typically, what we've done in PHP is it had to do like a round trip. It had to reload that PHP page, and we need to move beyond that and start incorporating our JavaScript to do all that stuff, right? So let me show you what's lurking in Visual Studio Code, okay? So what I want to show you here is just the basic stuff. I have a CSS folder and a CSS file. I have a helper folder that has this is logged in and logout ajax.php. And essentially those functions are what you see here. Is logged in. It starts a session. It checks to see if the first name is living in the session. If it is, it's returning to me some JSON, JavaScript object notation, of the word status and the value of yes. And this is an associative array in PHP. And what this does is it returns to me a JavaScript object with status and the word yes in it. I showed you that in the browser earlier. In fact, let me just show it to you again so you can see it. Actually, it's logged in right here. See? Status, yes. Okay? And what PHP is doing, it's encoding it such that JavaScript can understand status and yes. Yes, it's an array here. It's an associative array. But when I use this function here called JSON encode, it sends me back curly braces, in status and yes. Okay. If the first name is not set, I return no. They're not logged in. Yeah. And I'm calling this through JavaScript. So here's another one, logout. And pretty simple. I start a session, I destroy the session, and then I send back status success, that I have successfully logged out the user. And again, you saw this right here, success. Yeah. So I read this information in my JavaScript, which I have not shown you yet, right? So that's that. I got these two helper things. I got the CSS. In the includes folder, I have the connection to the database, CodeMonkey. And then I have the footer, which is just the closing body tag in the HTML. And I have the header here. And I'm using page title to display whatever page I'm on. I'll show you that, but you should know how to do that. I'll come back to the JavaScript last. So when you set this up, I give you the SQL. You're just going to create a new table called CodeMonkey, one word, lowercase, and then it's going to create a user table for you. And you're going to do that through PHP My Admin. Okay? So home.php. Here it is. This is the entire home page where I start a session. I set the page title. I include the header. Again, this pattern you know. I have 3 links, one to register, one to log in, and one to log out. And what I do is I say, welcome to our great site. I'm using the session variable here, right, for first name, a ternary. If it's set, then show the first name, else show new user. I then have this area that I'm using JavaScript to fill a message with. I was using jQuery last year when I did this, but I'm just using pure JavaScript. And here's where I'm loading JavaScript, and I'm telling JavaScript using this defer keyword here that load this after the page is loaded, and then here is the footer. Okay. So that's that. Login is something you know already. I'm starting a session because once the user logs in, once I read the form data, actually this is the login page, right? So let's go to the bottom first. This is the login login PHP stuff, and notice here I have this on-click event which calls, right, show or hide password. And I know some of you are saying, but you told us to use event listeners, and guess what? I did, but I forgot to change this one to an event listener. But here I can call onClick, and this show password function that's actually living in the JavaScript, which I'll show you. And when this form gets loaded, this is login, right? Login. So I don't know why I'm actually loading. Oh, I know why I'm loading JavaScript here. That's because I need this function right here. Okay. And yeah, then I load the footer right there. All right. So that's that. And then register. Okay. Page title, include the header, include the connection to the database. Okay. Do I have that on the login? Just want to make sure. I'm sure I do. Yeah, right here. Okay. I was just worried. So, did I say register? Yeah. So register is something you've done before, right? Here's the form for registration, and then on the post, right? It reads in the values, inserts the user into the table. The only thing you want to notice here is line 11 where it says hash and using SHA-512. So it takes the password that Cody typed in and it hashes it using this SHA-512 encryption mechanism. And this is the way it actually gets stored in the database. So it's pretty cool because you want a strong encrypted password, okay? And then when I log in, I'm gonna have to decrypt this using the same type of stuff. And we'll go over that this week, okay? So the script file, ignore test.script. In fact, I'm just going to delete test.script. And I clicked on script. And here's some JavaScript. This is the show password, which is going into the DOM, getting a handle to the element with the ID of password, assigning it to a constant, and same thing here. I'm getting the show password. So this is getting a handle to the password field. This is getting a handle to the link that's show or hide password. So I'm saying if the inner text of the show password element is show password, then I need to change it to hide password and set the field type of set the type to text, which will make it no longer a password field. And then else if the password field is set to hide password, I then set the type of the field to password, and I change the text to show password. Yes, that's something you're going to want to like use in your endeavors because it's a good feature, you know, for the user to be able to see the password that they typed in. All right. And then what I do here, and this is something called fetch, which is a way in JavaScript for you to execute code behind the scenes of the browser. So I'm actually calling, right, via fetch. This is logged in PHP. And then when I get a response, I convert the response to JSON, I store it, and then I call this anonymous function with that data that I got back. And again, this is all for is the user logged in or not. And if they are logged in, right, if the value of the status property that came back is yes, then I go and display the log in, right? I set it to none because we just logged in. I set the log out to inline block so that link shows. And then what I do here is I go and get a handle to log out. Document query selector. Yeah, I can improve this a little bit. See, I'm doing stupid stuff here, but I do that a lot. And then I go here and I add an event listener to the logout. And what happens here, this E thing, this is an event object that gets passed with an event listener, and I'll go over that in JavaScript this week. And it prevents the link from going where it was supposed to go, okay? And then what I'm doing is I'm then calling the logout because they clicked on the logout. I added an event listener. I'm adding an anonymous function. And I'm using fetch to call that, getting a response back. And then if I successfully log them out, then I just change the properties of login, logout, all that kind of stuff back to what they should be, set some inner HTML and some inner text, and bing a bang a boom. And if the, for this function here, if they're not logged in, I set the login to inline block so they can click on login, and then I hide if it's there. I set the display property of logout to none, right? So in the style sheet, that's the last thing I'll show you here, and that's all the JavaScript. The style here is just I'm setting the initial display for login and logout to none, and I'm allowing JavaScript to do that. For the show or hide password stuff I have there, I'm setting text decoration to none because it's really not a link. And then I set on the hover state of the show password, right, on the login screen, right? See, I set it to a point finger, whatever you want to call it, because normally it would just be the I-beam, okay? So that's what we're going to cover this week, and I haven't come up with the exact lab that I'm going to have you do, but I'm thinking that I'm going to have you add a feature to your gallery that adds login registration type of functionality. And when the person registers for your site, may have you add like a role and have them be either an admin or a user. And if they're an admin, if they select that on login, then you should show the ability to allow them to upload files. If they're a regular user, then you're going to want to hide that entire area where you give them that forum or whatever. If you use the drop stuff that I showed you, you want to hide that if they're just a regular user, all right? This video is a little bit longer than I had originally intended to. Happy Sunday, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. No, Tuesday in class. So if you've watched this video, let me know on Slack. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.